So right, in the previous video, we discussed the count and save problem and how it is related to the run length encoding concept. And now in this video, we're going to be talking about the coding part of this Leetcode problem. So our aim was to return the nth element of the count and say sequence. So basically, what I've done is this was the function count and say function, which would take the parameter n. So that is int n. So the base case is already given to us. That is, if n is equal to 1, then the output obviously would be 1 because this is the base case of the RLE. Sorry, not the RLE, but this is the base case of the count and say problem, which is already given to us in this problem. So if n is equal to 1, then we return 1, right? And finally, we return RLE of count and say of n minus 1. That is also given here because it's a recursive problem. So you can see that count and say of n would give us the RLE of count and say of n minus 1. RLE, we have made another function, which I'll discuss, and count and say of n minus 1. So what we've done is basically just from this, from the first 3 lines of the question or the problem statement, we have extracted this much information, right? Now we are going to move on to the main part of the problem, that is solving and coding out the RLE, which is the run length encoding part. So obviously RLE would take a string as a parameter, which we've also provided here, n minus 1, right? So sorry, this is the string. So this would return a string element. So a string variable would be returned. So result is a string, and you can see also the data type here assigned a string. So string of RLE is the function that I've made up here. So I take a result string in which I'll finally store the final result, and I've taken a counter which will run from each character in the original string s, so as to basically go over each of them and calculate the RLE of each of these characters, right? So basically what we are aiming to do is string compression. That is also basically achieved, and what our aim is to basically replace all the all the characters of the string by the concatenation of that character itself with the number of times that character consecutively occurs in the string, right? Consecutively basically is if the characters are adjacently placed and they are same, that is the that is the length of the run, right? So we saw that in the previous video, and now it's time to code it out. So what I've done is taken a for loop for size t, I is equal to 1, I less than s dot length, I plus plus. So running a loop from for basically n minus 1 iterations, where n is basically int of, let me just uh, yeah, is basically s dot length is basically the original string that we have been provided with, that is here, right? So we check if s of I is equal to s of I minus 1. This is the case where we check if the characters consecutively placed or the adjacent characters. Let me write it down. If adjacent characters as are identical, that is the case where if 3 and 3 these are identical, so yes, this case matches. That is 3 and 3 are identical, so we increase the counter by 1. So we just needed to give the counter, and in the else case, if they are not equal, then what we do is we add this to the result. So basically we have reached the point where the consecutive characters are not identical. So at this point, now since we have achieved the count, right, what we do is we uh, convert this count to a string. That is, we basically uh, are taking the count of the characters and concatenating it with the character that we had at that position. So that means we are appending this to the result and again resetting the count to 1. So as you can see, we replace 3 by 2 3 because initially we have the count of the characters, which is the length of the run, and then the character itself, and then we are resetting it to count is equal to 1, and then the loop goes on. So basically, as you can see, simply we have achieved that we have been able to do the run length encoding, and once this has been completed, we finally have to since this is running not equal to but I less than s dot length, so we finally need to also add result, add basically uh, the string value of the count, and the s dot back is basically the last remaining element, because this does not consider the last element since we are running it till the second last element. So finally we add that to the result, and this is the run length encoding, and this function completes the run length encoding, and then we call it here finally. So the count and say problem would result in the answer. Let me just run it for you guys. So code enter, right? It's running, and as you can see, it has been accepted. So yes, this works fine, and that's it about the problem. Thank you guys for watching.